I'd like to weigh in here. After spending a year as chairman of the Emergency Medical Services Committee and doing a lot of studying, I have a great passion about this particular issue. And I'd like to take a moment and go with some questions to Mark here so that both the people in the audience and the people on television understand where this thing really is. And my understanding, Chief Miller, is that the equipment and supplies was portable equipment, was not permanently affixed to the fire truck, right?
That's correct.
And was not on the fire truck when a paramedic was not in service.
That's correct. It was intended to be portable in that if it was needed on another backup ambulance, it could be delivered to, and I don't recall that situation ever arose, but it was intended to be, portable in that we could transfer it over to an ambulance if they needed it.
So if we didn't have it on our engine, it was stored there at the fire station? Locked cabinet?
Correct. Yeah, locked up if there wasn't a medic on duty.
Now, let me ask you, in your opinion, about survivability on a patient. Is it more important to have a fully qualified and equipped paramedic there within 4 to 5 minutes, or is it more important to have an ambulance there?
Obviously, the answer is that the sooner they're going to get resuscitative expertise on the scene, the better their probability and their outcome will be.
My experience is that I've never seen them drive an ambulance into the house to resuscitate a patient. That's the work of a paramedic.
Yeah,
right?
Typically in the advent of a cardiac arrest situation, the paramedics will work that call at the scene until they are able to stabilize the patient, and when and if, then they package for transport.
Yeah. I always love that word, package, that they use. So in the normal cases, the ambulance sits outside for 5, 10, 15 minutes while the person's being taken care of and set up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In Captain Hollingsworth's report of 2007, he indicated there was at least 20 cases over that 10-month period where people received an initial advanced life support treatment from a health service approved firefighter paramedic operating from a fire truck, right?
Yes, that's true. There was considerable controversy over that issue in that the healthcare district was looking at it in terms of only when the ambulance was not available.
Okay.
Which I believe happened on 1 or 2 occasions throughout that first year. But the statistics that we have indicate when ALS-type procedures, invasive procedures, were administered by one of the paramedics from the fire department.
And if a paramedic, a firefighter arrived there first and began ALS services, which involve what, injections and other things other than just basic first aid,
cardiac monitoring,
drugs,
IV therapy,
all those things. In your opinion, what's the difference between a paramedic, in survivability or quality of life, if they're arriving 1 minute before the ambulance paramedic arrives and begins providing services, is that of benefit to the patient, or is 2 minutes or 3 minutes, or?
I don't know if you're aware, the NFPA has a recommendation that for initial emergency response, and that's that your first responding emergency unit should arrive on the scene within 4 minutes, 90% of the time. And a lot of that is predicated upon the survivability of a cardiac arrest patient or someone who is not breathing. The American Heart Association has come up with statistics that irreversible brain damage starts to occur at that 4-minute mark. So a lot of that recommendation for that 4-minute response capability comes not only for fire response, but comes from that EMS response as well. So yes.
A minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes added to that time makes a difference.
Absolutely a huge difference, yeah.
And his report covered up till June of 2007, and those were where you were keeping statistics, and I understand you haven't kept statistics once it became permanent, but is it your opinion that as a general rule, the fire truck arrives first?
We keep statistics on our response times, and the healthcare does as well. The two different dispatching agencies they're different, and that's where the rub comes in. But I can tell you that, yeah, our fire agency arrives first a considerable percentage of the time.
Okay.
Like well over half.
I would say probably 75% of the time, yeah.
Okay.
At least that.
And we currently, as firefighters, we currently have 4 firefighters that are qualified paramedics.
4 paramedic level firefighters, and that doesn't include my certification. That's line personnel that are employed by our agency, the CCSD, and are employed by the CCHD as well as paramedics.
So most of these are also employed by CCHD?
Yeah, all of them are.
Okay, so they're both firefighter paramedics, they're also ambulance paramedics?
Right, they work part-time with the ambulance as well as our agency.
Okay, today, if a fire engine arrives first on the scene, what can that firefighter do even if they're a qualified paramedic?
They're limited to basic life support, just the same as any EMT or first responder, first aider would be.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't utilize, the only way they can utilize ALS capability is if they have the equipment. Because it's invasive procedures, so they're limited to basic.
Let me make it personal, okay? Jason Melende is a reserve firefighter.
Correct.
And paramedic.
Yes.
And he's also director of operations of the healthcare district, correct?
That's correct.
That kind of makes him the head paramedic at the healthcare district.
At the healthcare district, yes.
So he's fully qualified as a paramedic, probably the most qualified theoretically in this area. That was the way I would understand. And you don't need to give a personal opinion one way or another.
That's hard to do with personnel issues.
Yeah, but by status as director of operations of things, okay. Anyhow, if today he arrives on a fire truck to an incident of a heart attack or stroke, he can't do anything such as...
No, he would be limited to basic EMT or first responder.
And the reason he can't do that is, first of all, he doesn't have the equipment.
Exactly.
And secondly, it's against the law?
Well, the agreement that we have has to be, cooperative between the healthcare district. The healthcare district is the authority for advanced life support in the community of Cambria. So unless they've extended that to our agency, then it would not be lawful for our people to...
So if Jason Melendez appears on a fire truck at that scene of that heart attack, he can't use his skills or his abilities to help that person beyond what any normal firefighter could.
He would be limited to the basic EMT level.
Now, if he arrives at that exact same circumstances, wearing a uniform of the healthcare district, he can use all of his skills, he can use all of his abilities, he can use all of that equipment to help save somebody's life.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, if he's working on the ambulance and responding on the ambulance at the time,
But if
yes.
he responds on a fire truck, he can't.
Correct.
That's the ridiculousness of this situation.
And if I can add to that, Director Clift, relating back to the statistic we were given on which of the two agencies gets to an emergency medical call first, 75% of the time, the Cambria Fire Department arrives first.
I've seen that personally because I live right on Hillcrest, and when the noise starts up the hill, I always look to see whether CDF beat Cambria Fire across Sunbury to go up Hillcrest, or who's first in line. Part of the times it's Cambria Fire, part of the times it's CDF, and then, or Cal Fire, excuse me, I'm an old man. And then the ambulance usually is behind that. I forgot one thing here. When those people are working as a paramedic, the deal is they get $50 a month stipend, right? Per pay period.
Per pay period.
So it's about 100 a month?
Yeah.
That's paid through, we're a pass-through, so the healthcare district was reimbursing us as we sent them an
Okay.
invoice
All
for
right.
pay period. Quarterly, I think is what we did it.
So I guess, what brings the question to me is what's the reason for the healthcare district to reduce the level of service it's providing this community? And the only thing I can think of is monetary. So maybe it's $300 a month or something like that, $300 or $400.
That is not the issue. The issue is
that-
to have their backup reserve equipment stocked, fully stocked with ALS
So
equipment.
it's not $300 or $400 a month.
No, they continue to pay the stipend, which is of a concern for me, because then you're creating a situation where you have a medic on duty being paid as such who's not capable of functioning to that level, which in essence could have its own liability tied to it.
Now, the other excuse is that there's an urgent need for the equipment on their backup ambulance. Now, do they really believe, they just bought two new $100,000 ambulance. Do they?
Yeah, that was, at the time, it became an issue with them to move the equipment to the reserve ambulances, was at the time they got their two new
But
ambulances.
what they're telling me is they believe that these two brand-new ambulances could be broken down or needing maintenance, and they have to put two reserve ambulances in force at a time, these two are broken down at a time when you have a dual call. The odds on that are so infinitesimal. And secondly, your very first answer to me was this equipment is portable, right?
Correct.
So they could move that broken down $100,000 ambulance, the information, the stuff out of that into that older ambulance, correct?
Yeah, that was the way the program was initially designed, was for that capability, to be able to move it over to a reserve ambulance if it was needed.
Now, we've also offered to pay the $20,000 for the equipment on our...
We were studying that. There hasn't been any action taken on that yet because...
We've discussed it, but they haven't indicated they would take us up on it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It always gets back to that insurance issue, that workers' comp liability.
That's a phony issue. Let me tell you what my opinion is. I'll just be as blunt as I can be, what my opinion is. The reason for stopping this cooperative service is that the majority, not all, the majority of the Healthcare District Board feel threatened that if this program is successful and helps the people of this community, their little kingdom might be absorbed into either Cambria Fire or Cal Fire. That's what they're afraid of. That's what it's all about. It's a turf war for their little kingdom. And it doesn't matter to them what additional services can be provided to the citizens or what monetary savings could be achieved by cooperating with other fire or rescue services. All that matters to them is they keep total control and keep this community in the dark of what they're doing. Just in case I didn't make my opinion clear.
No, what do you really think?
Let me say in closing, I have the highest regard for the paramedics that work for the healthcare district. And I have the highest regard for the paramedics that man those fire trucks and work for the fire department. And believe it or not, in all my studies of that year of working, this community has been provided by those paramedics the very, very best emergency service for any rural community in the state of California, and I would bet across the whole United States. Do you know that according to the emergency medical officer down in the county, we would not even qualify for one ambulance stationed here if we didn't have our healthcare district. And we have 4 fully equipped ambulances with the possibility of a full-time fire truck running and 2 full-time crews. That, believe it or not, Paso Robles only has 2 ambulances that cover all of Paso Robles out to Shandon and all the way to Heritage, Nacimiento, and that whole area. 2 ambulances. We have the best service possible, and those paramedics have provided. Having said that, I have nothing but contempt for the majority of the board members of the healthcare district, because what they've done is put the lives of citizens of this community at risk, because they have removed that equipment from people who are fully qualified and have the ability to be there. And that's my position. I don't know what we can do right now, except that I could ask every one of you out there and every one of you in the television audience to write the Cambria, write the editor of the Cambria, and express your disgust at what's going on, because the reduction in service could cost you your life. Now, if you want to send a copy of that letter to the healthcare district, go ahead, but I don't think they'd give a damn. And that's my feelings on the situation.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Go ahead.
I just want everyone to be clear on the fact that this is an administrative problem that we're dealing with here and a service level issue. The cooperation and the service in the streets between the 2 agencies is very good.
That's absolutely the case, and I agree with you 100% there.
I was very concerned about that issue when this thing took off, that this was going to trickle down, it was going to affect the product, the end-level product to the citizens. And everything that I've seen indicates that in spite of the administrative struggles, it's still a quality product on the street, and the medics continue to work well together in spite of the issues that we're looking at. So I just want to make that
comment. And I think that's an important point, and I think that's the point people ought to know, is that all those people that are out there providing that service deserve our greatest respect.
Absolutely. But the issue remains, we have the unbelievable circumstance of having a fully qualified paramedic on a Cambria Fire Department truck who gets to the scene of an emergency medical call and cannot render emergency life support, advanced life support for that patient. And as you pointed out, Chief Miller, it's those first 4 minutes that are critical in terms of saving the patient's life. This is government at its very worst. It's just beyond comprehension to me, and we have got to find a fix for this.